Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of SacTown Movie Buffs. Once again, I'm Kier, and this is Jason. And today we are continuing our series of our top 10 films of every year, starting from 1995 and moving forward. And we're already 5 years into this bad boy, man. We're already on 2000 now. So, so pretty cool. So this will be the first half of our top 10 films of 2000, starting with number 10 through number 6. But of course, before we get into that, 2000, man, what do you remember about that year? Anything particular? Anything to note?
In real life, you mean?
Yeah.
Nah, I don't remember much about that year, to be honest. I mean, I was in college.
So was I.
Yeah. We were at Yuba still, I think.
Yeah, we were both at Yuba. We didn't move to SAC until 2001.
Yeah.
I remember living in Sacramento when 9/11 had happened. We had just moved there like a couple months prior. So,
right. Yeah. So it was good. I mean, it was fine. It wasn't my a great time for me. I was kind of coming out of a mild depression I had there for a while, but there were a lot of good movies. So I remember the movies really more than anything else.
Of course you do. Of course.
Yeah. That's most years, though. That's most years. Yeah. But I know this was the year we were originally going to start with. Remember when we were going to do these top 10s? We were going to start.
Yeah. We were just going to go back to 2000 and go up the 20 years or whatever. So yeah.
And then we were like, well, why don't we just go back a little bit more? And then ever since we met each other in '95, so we still got a ways to go. 2 decades.
Yeah, and I was like, why don't we just go back to 1975? You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of good films that happened in those decades as well. And you just keep going further back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we could go back to 1955 when you were born. So
yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I don't remember a whole lot about 2000 either. I was, like I said, I was still in college, and there wasn't anything super special. But yeah, there's always good films every year, so that's always a plus. So, well, with that said, let's get into it, man. Let's talk about 2000.
All right.
Let's start with your number 10 for 2000.
My number 10 is it's controversial movie. I'll say that. Like it's got its fans and it's got its passionate non-fans. I'll just put it that way. My number 10, obviously I'm a fan, is The Cell. I know you're not a fan of this one.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Well, I think this is a great movie. I think it's a visionary movie. I think it's really an amazing movie. It got kind of lost in the shuffle of time, unfortunately. It seems like no. It is it's essentially a serial killer movie. So there were a million of those in the wake of Seven and the Silence of the Lambs, but this one has a completely different kind of idea behind it. In that the plot of the movie is that this technology is available at the time of the movie that you can literally go into somebody's mind. So that affords an opportunity for the filmmaker here to really go into some crazy visual ideas, and it almost comes across like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie in a lot of ways. Some of the imagery that happens when you're inside the serial killer's mind, it's very Nightmare on Elm Street in a lot of ways. I'm a big Nightmare on Elm Street fan, so to combine basically it's like the Silence of the Lambs meets a Nightmare on Elm Street, which for me is awesome. It's one of those movies from back when Jennifer Lopez was a really promising actress. I think Out of Sight, U-Turn, The Cell, something else I'm forgetting. But she did this long run of not a long run, but like 4 really great
films of
yeah. Before she went off into like romantic comedy land. Yeah. So I really love The Cell. It definitely got mixed reviews when it came out. Again, people who liked it really liked it. People who didn't like it really didn't like it. I think it's a gamble that pays off really well artistically, if not financially. So I highly recommend The Cell. If it passed you by, go back and check it out. You might be one of the cults that likes it. So that's my number 10, and it was my number 1 back in 2000. I will put it that way.
Yeah, I noticed that it definitely has dropped down the ladder quite a bit.
The numbers they always shift around, over the years. But it was my number 1 in the year 2000. And hey, I haven't watched it in several years. Maybe I'll watch it tomorrow and bump it back up to 1. Who knows? But whatever.
I sure hope not for anybody watching at home that thinks that like this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
For, whatever the place it is in the top 10, I think it's a great film. That's my number 10.
All right, cool. I don't remember a whole lot about it other than I definitely did not like it at all. I just remember being really weird and just not my cup of tea. It's got a lot of sci-fi elements to it with the technology going in somebody's mind and the weirdness of that. And, and it's no secret, I'm not a huge sci-fi person in general. I don't dislike sci-fi, but, sometimes if it gets too weird for me, I kind of check out a little bit. That's all I remember. I just kind of checked out of it and just wasn't as interesting to me as it was to you. So I'm definitely in the other half that didn't like it at all. So it's not going to make my top 10. It's not going to make my top 20. It's probably not going to make my top 100 for that year. So, but that's why we do these lists. You know what I mean? We can't all like good stuff like Jason. You know what I mean? He just doesn't.
I know we can't all like good stuff like me.
You don't like.
No, the words that you said were, we can't all like good stuff like Jason. That's what you said. That's a direct quote.
That's not what I meant.
We can't all like good stuff like Jason. That's true.
No, it's not a good film. We're not going to like that one. You're not going to like it. I would pass it by.
Okay, I would not.
Well, all right.
All right.
Moving on to my number 10, which I don't own. So, as usual. So we'll go ahead and pull that right up in there. Another horror movie, actually. Hollow Man. Yeah. Very similar in some ways. Obviously, it's an Invisible Man story that stars Kevin Bacon. It's also one of those like trapped in a room kind of movies as well, especially towards the end. So it's like he's basically a scientist, and this one is a little different than say like the Invisible Man, which is a whole nother subject where it's more of like a suit that makes you invisible. This one is more of an actual science experiment where they're actually doing experiments and they're testing it all on monkeys at first, and then Kevin Bacon's character, who's like the lead scientist of like this research team, decides to be like the guinea pig of it. But there's a lot of side effects to becoming invisible. First being is they can't reverse it. So that's kind of the problem. And then I think all of his hair fell off and that sort of stuff. And so it's like one of those things where they kind of keep him quarantined in this room. And there's also psychological elements as well that affects somebody that when they like rage and that sort of stuff. And so he kind of they keep him like locked in this room. They don't let him out. And, he kind of wants to be free. And, everybody's coming up to him like, well, what would you do if you went out? And what kind of trouble would you get into? And, sure enough, he, finds ways to escape and go out and that kind of stuff. And it really kind of turns into like he doesn't seem like a really bad guy in the beginning, but by the end, he's pretty much kind of a villain at that point. I've always liked that movie. I always thought it was fun. It's kind of a simple movie. It's not going to win any Oscars, any awards, or anything like that. But it's always one that I always kind of watch every now and then. I watched it a couple months ago, actually. I always just enjoy it. It's just a fun movie for me. Just a fun, simple horror movie. Almost kind of a ghost story in a way because he's invisible and that sort of stuff. So that's my number 10, Hollow Man.
Cool. I think Hollow Man's fine. It's never been one of my favorites. I liked it. I've watched it 2, maybe 3 times. But the last time it was a long time ago. But yeah, it's never blown me away. But I don't dislike it either. It's a lot closer to the original Invisible Man, actually. The 30s one.
Versus
the one that came out this year. Yeah. Because it's also, you can't reverse it, and it also kind of drives the main character mad.
Right.
That whole idea that's, but yeah, I mean, I like it. I think it could have been better, but it's all right. It's no The Cell, for sure.
Yeah, it's better than The Cell. That's why. Yeah. Did you? A quick question. Did you? Because we never really talked about the Invisible, the Invisible Man, the new one. Did you? Would you say you like the Invisible Man, the new one, better than Hollow Man?
Oh, absolutely, easy. Okay. Yeah, easy. Yeah. I don't
know. I have to think about it again, and I really need to watch that again one more time. So I've only seen it. Well, I've actually ordered it on through Amazon, so it's coming in the mail. So I'll watch that one again also. So
okay, cool. Yeah, and that's not really a big slam on Hollow Man. It's just that I thought the new Invisible Man, even though it has not much to do with the original Invisible Man.
Not at all. No.
It's I really enjoyed it. I thought it kind of I thought it kind of fizzled out toward the end. But
the new one, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too. I like the ending of Hollow Man a little better than the ending of the Invisible Man, because it was a little bit more suspenseful for me. I felt like.
Yeah.
So,
I don't remember how Hollow Man ends, to be honest, but I'm sure Kevin Bacon's dead.
Hey man, don't give away spoilers, man. There might be a
sorry.
Yeah. Well, now we know there won't be a sequel. No, I'm just messing with you. All right, cool. All right, well, number 9.
Okay. Number 9 for me is one of these. It's like a double feature DVD, so I'll try to block. But number 9 for me is a smaller movie called You Can Count on Me. So this movie, and it's on a double feature.
I've never even heard of that movie.
It's on a double feature disc with Election, probably because they both have Matthew Broderick in it. But there it is, right there. You Can Count on Me. It's a really, really great drama. It actually is the movie that put Mark Ruffalo on the map. That's very, very young Mark Ruffalo there. And it's just a really great character-driven comedy / drama. It's about Mark Ruffalo plays this kind of drifter, kind of no account, and he goes. Well, the main character is Laura Linney. Laura Linney plays the main character. She's a mom. She lives in this small town, and her brother Mark Ruffalo is this kind of drifter who is just. I mean, I think every family has a Mark Ruffalo character from this movie in there. He's kind of the black sheep of the family that everybody likes, but he's just screw up. He's a screw up. And you want to take care of him, but you can't, that kind of thing. So he comes to stay with her, and it's just a really nice drama about family. If anybody with a family would relate to this movie, I think. And it's directed and written by the guy who has made a couple of other really great movies, I think. And I know you like Margaret a lot.
Yeah.
You remember Margaret with Anna Paquin and all those other people.
That's Margaret quite a bit.
Yeah, this was the movie that director made before Margaret, and then he also made Manchester by the Sea, which I liked a lot too. But I didn't like that one quite as much as Margaret or You Can Count on Me. But if you like really well acted, really human movies about family, and it's funny and it moves you, and it's just simple good drama, but it's also funny. I definitely recommend You Can Count on Me. So I don't think it's available on Blu-ray, unfortunately, which I try to stay away from these like double feature discs, but this one was the only option, I think. So I highly recommend that if you haven't seen it.
Cool.
And I'm not just talking to you. I'm talking to, America.
Anybody that might be watching.
Cool. The entire, all of America.
Well, you can count on me to never watch that movie.
Oh, shut up. Shut up.
I'm just messing with you, man. I never heard of it, so I really can't comment too much on it. But it sounds like a movie. You know what I mean? It sounds like something. It sounds like, yeah, man. Who knows? You know what I mean? Maybe maybe one of these days, when I'm watching paint dry, I will be like, you know what? Let's take a break from watching this paint dry and watch You Can Count on Me.
I can definitely count on you to be annoying. That's for sure.
Well, moving on to my number 9, which in this case I actually do own. All right.
My God, wow.
This one's also kind of a horror thriller, if you will, and it is going to be Unbreakable.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so Bruce Willis, Samuel Jackson, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, of course, when he was still kind of doing relevant stuff, I think, at that point. I don't know if he had all of his misses at that point yet. So I know it got progressively worse after Unbreakable. Like he did like, I think, did Signs come before Unbreakable?
I can never remember that, but I think Signs came after.
Okay, maybe. So he was still kind of on that track, the Sixth Sense and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it came out. This is his movie after Sixth Sense, so it had like a huge hype around it for sure.
Yeah. And I know some people didn't like it as much as the Sixth Sense and that sort of stuff. And it's not as good as the Sixth Sense in my opinion, but I definitely like it a lot. Obviously, it made my top 10. And Samuel Jackson, Bruce Willis, obviously the story of Mr. Glass. If you haven't seen this one, but you probably have seen Split or heard of Glass. These are the same, well, not Split, but in same characters. Bruce Willis's character and Samuel Jackson's Mr. Glass are the same characters in this one, where this is the one where before they realize that they have all these, well, at least Bruce Willis doesn't realize that they have these superpowers, if you will. It's a superhero comic book type film. And he breaks easily, and then Bruce Willis's character is the opposite. He's super strong. He's, been in train accidents and that sort of stuff and survived, and the only survivor on the train and that kind of stuff. So he's got like superhuman strength. So it's a comic book film, kind of more of a realistic one, I guess, if you will, because they're not like flying through the air like Marvel or anything like that, but it's kind of simplistic in that sense. And I get the sense the budget on it wasn't that big either. It felt like it anyways. It feels kind of very simple, and that's kind of M. Night Shyamalan's thing, is the budget it always feels kind of more simplistic in some ways, you know what I mean? He doesn't use a whole lot of big giant special effects in these anyways. I don't recall him using a lot of that in films.
Yeah, even like Signs, Signs is like a alien invasion movie, but instead of taking like an Independence Day approach, something I really like about Signs is that it's about how would somebody who lives in the middle of nowhere experience this, So it is kind of it is simple, I guess, like you said, but it's kind of like it has a big story that it examines like in a small way, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah. So, and that's just kind of his style in a way. I mean, just even with The Sixth Sense, I mean, it's kind of this ghost story, but it feels very simplistic in that way as well. So, you love it or hate it, you know what I mean? That's kind of his style. Sometimes it works for him, and then there are many times it doesn't work for him either. So, but yeah, that's my number 9 is Unbreakable.
Cool. I like Unbreakable a lot. Funny thing is, I didn't like it at all when it first came out.
I didn't love it the first time I saw it. I didn't. I don't know if I hated it. I didn't love it the first time I saw it because I was expecting kind of more of the Sixth Sense kind of thing. You know what I mean? And so I felt like it had let me down because it was kind of different. And then a lot of people have like an issue with the superhero element to it. At least at the time they did. It seemed like, I don't know if they do so much anymore now. There's been kind of pseudo 2 sequels to that film. So, but it's an interesting story for sure. So,
yeah, I didn't like it at all when it came out, really. And I think it's pretty interesting because it came out. I love it now, by the way. But back then, it's kind of interesting because it came out long before the whole boom of superheroes coming back into fashion.
It did, yeah.
I remember the trailers, they were very mysterious. They didn't really let on about the movie at all. It just seemed the only thing anybody knew going into that movie when it came out was Bruce Willis plays a character who can't die. That was all you really knew from the trailers and the synopsis and stuff. Everything else was top secret, which I think is a great idea. And then when I go in, I'm not a big superhero comic book fan. I mean,
Yeah,
I like.
I wouldn't say I necessarily am. I might be a little bit more than you, but I wouldn't. I'm definitely not on the, oh my God, the Avengers. You know what I mean? So I'm not. I'm not that way either, really. So I watched most of them, but I can't say that I love a lot of them. And I don't own most of them because I wasn't that interested in them. So.
And I sure wasn't in 2000. You know what I mean? So when it comes around in the movie to what it's actually about, it just completely lost me back in 2000 because I was like, well, first of all, it was like the plot of this movie seems like it should be a comedy. Like, guess what? You're a superhero. It sounds like it should be a comedy. And it's instead like in M. Night Shyamalan fashion, it's just like it's very serious, very somber, very dark, very down. And I was just like, it just didn't work for me back then at all. Because number one, I'm not into comic books. And number two, how are you making a comic book movie that is like such a drab downer?
I mean, it definitely would be more on the DC side of the comic book. If it's going to be a comic book, more the darker, if you will. It's definitely not the more happy-go-lucky, Avengers and all those films. All those ones. It's definitely a lot darker, a little more sinister in that sense. So, but I like that about it. That's kind of what I come to like about it, is that it is different than a typical superhero movie where we almost know all the characters because you've read all the comic books and you know exactly what their powers are, what their weaknesses are, and this one you don't even realize it's a superhero movie until pretty much almost 2/3 of the way in. I feel like so I did like.
I went back and watched it again after Split. Because I don't think it's a real spoiler at this point that you find out at the end of Split that it takes place in the same universe as this.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you haven't seen Split, really, But so I watched it again after that, and I really enjoyed it. Like now in hindsight, I think it's a really interesting approach to.
I do, yeah. Now that you've seen the other two films, and I will say this: you don't necessarily need to see this in order to see Split, but I probably would see this in order to see Glass.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In fact, I'd probably see this and Split in order to see Glass.
For sure. Yeah. So, and I like all three of them a lot.
And I wasn't as big of a fan of Glass as I was the first two, but it's just me. But who knows? Maybe I'll watch it now and enjoy it more. I don't know, because I wasn't the hugest fan of this either. So
yeah. Well, anyway, I do think Unbreakable now, if you watch it, it was ahead of its time in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it was before all the big superhero movies and that sort of stuff. So I agree with that as well.
So yeah, I definitely like it. It's not in my top 10, but it's in my runner-ups for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're already on number 8.
Okay. All right. It's another one that you probably never heard of. So
awesome.
Yeah. Number 8.
We'll spend 10 minutes on my films. We'll spend 2 minutes on Jason's. Cool.
Yeah. Whatever. So my number 8 is a movie that I only saw probably it's probably been 10 years ago now, but it's called Code Unknown.
I've heard of it. I've never seen it before.
Okay, cool. Yeah. It's a movie by Michael Haneke. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it that way properly. He's an Austrian filmmaker, very controversial filmmaker. He made the original version, actually, and the remake of Funny Games. So his movies are almost always pretty intense and violent and shocking and all that kind of stuff. This one is actually not as shocking or violent as Funny Games or Benny's Video, I think, is the other one. Or he's made a lot of movies. But this movie, I recommend to people by telling them it's kind of like the anti-Crash. So almost everybody's seen Crash. What year?
Which version? Which Crash are you talking about, though?
Not the David Cronenberg one. Not the one about the people getting turned on by car crashes. I'm talking about the one that won.
There are 2 crashes. So
No. I'm talking about the big Oscar-winning Best Picture. 2003, I think, about it's about Sandra Bullock is in it, and it's about one of those big ensemble pieces that I usually love, but I think Crash is like one of the most overrated Best Picture winners for sure. So this is a movie that I called like the anti-Crash. If you were kind of turned off by how manipulative and kind of empty I think Crash is, this is kind of like the antidote for that, because like Crash, this is a movie that intersects a whole bunch of different characters of different nationalities, different classes. And it starts, and you can kind of see on the cover of this Blu-ray I've got here, it starts with a street scene that is kind of could happen anywhere, and it's a violent encounter that could happen anywhere. And it kind of brings together all these characters for like an instant of something that you could totally imagine happening, especially now. You'd probably see it on Facebook tomorrow. But it's like a violent encounter that is very believable, that happens out of nowhere. And then it kind of spiral out, and it shows you what happened to these people after, before. It's kind of one of those puzzle piece ensemble movies. But unlike Crash, it doesn't try to ram like a message down your throat. It doesn't try to bring any, nice, tidy reconciliations between all the characters. Some of them run into each other again. Some of them never see each other again. But it's very realistic that way, and the acting is phenomenal in this movie. It's got a scene set on a subway train toward the end of the movie, which is one of the most well-acted scenes I've ever seen. And it's just a long, unbroken shot, and it just takes my breath away every time I watch it. But if you like those kind of movies that are complex, they make you think about life, and they just a lot of different characters and how their lives intersect and everything. But you thought Crash was a little bit, heavy-handed. I recommend checking out Code Unknown. You will have to read some subtitles though, because most of it's in French. So, but yeah, it's a great movie that I highly recommend. That's my number 8.
Cool. Again, can't comment too much on it because haven't seen it, but yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll check it out sometime and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, moving on to my number 8, and I don't own this one. Also stars Samuel Jackson, however, so in a little bit of a different role. And my number 8 is going to be Shaft. So, yeah, just a really, really fun film. Obviously, if you know the story about Shaft, it's the blaxploitation film. This was
Shut your mouth.
You shut your mouth. He's a bad mother, But, no, so yeah, this is the remake version of it. And he's he's plays the the badass Shaft character. He's a cop, and he gets involved in a kind of a murder investigation. The funny thing about this film, though, that and I think you would agree with this as well, the villains kind of make the film. You know what I mean? Like, I love Samuel Jackson. He's my favorite actor, and he's good in here. Don't get me wrong, but it's the villains that really, really make the film. Jeffrey Wright and a Christian Bale are kind of like the two bad guys in the film. Christian Bale plays basically this pompous rich kid. That basically also basically attacks a black kid played by Mekhi Phifer, I think. Yeah. Anyways, attacks the kid, and then there's a whole murder investigation of what happened and that kind of stuff, and Shaft's trying to catch him, and he ends up somehow Christian Bale's character ends up teaming up with Jeffrey Wright's character, who plays like this kind of like, I think it's like Puerto Rican in the film, this Porter named Peoples Hernandez.
I love that name.
Name. Peoples Hernandez, and he basically is like this drug dealer guy. The kind of big time on his block or whatever case may be. So they kind of team up together, and they're basically at odds with Samuel Jackson or Shaft and that kind of stuff. So it's an action movie. It's got some funny comedy in it. But the bad guys are what really, really makes this film so much fun. You know what I mean? They're funny. They have like a lot of good like one-liners. They have a lot of funny stuff. It's just a really just fun film. They obviously made a sequel to this that came out like last year that was just horrible. But this one's a really, really good one. Definitely one that I recommend you check out if you haven't seen it before. And that is my number 8 is Shaft.
I didn't see the sequel, but it looked good. I mean, the trailer was good, but I've heard nothing.
It was messy. It was all over the place. And they actually brought back Richard Roundtree, who's supposed to play he was actually in this one as well for just a brief second. But they brought back Richard Roundtree, who's supposed to play like his. I don't know if he's supposed to play his uncle or something like that. But the funny thing about it is, and a lot of people don't know this, is that Richard Roundtree is only like a couple of years older than Samuel Jackson. But he's supposed to be like older, like wiser. Yeah, he's only like 4 years older than he is or something like that. They could be brothers, really. Yeah. That's the funny thing about it. You know what I mean? Like that
I would have thought he was like 20 years older than him.
Oh, no, he's not that much older. I looked it up one time, and it was like he's not even. They're like I can't remember the exact age difference, but they're pretty close in age. Surprisingly, you know what I mean? They're not like 20 years apart or anything like that. It's like something like pretty short. I have to look up the actual numbers, but I thought that was kind of funny. And then that one, it's also Shaft's son. Is in that one. I didn't care for that one as much. It was just messy and all over the place. So not one that I recommend necessarily.
Yeah, so. It looked fun to me, but the reviews were so bad that I steered clear.
And they were warranted in that case for sure. So
yeah. As for this one, I liked it. It's not one of my favorites or anything like that, and I definitely agree that it's Jeffrey Wright and Walter Wade. That's his name in the movie. Jeffrey Wright and Christian Bale who make the movie easily. And there's a lot of movies where the villains are really memorable or even more memorable than the good guys.
The Dark Knight would be one of those. You know what I mean? So
yeah. But in this case, I think it's just a little bit of the gulf is a little bit too wide between the villains being super interesting and the good guys being pretty boring, really. I mean, I don't remember anything that special about Samuel Jackson's version of Shaft, really, other than that he was playing it exactly the way you would expect him to. There wasn't anything memorable about the character. Really, the only thing I remember is Walter Wade and Peoples Hernandez, aka Christian Bale, and you see, like, I still even remember the characters' names. So they were great. They were great. They make the movie worth watching. Otherwise, I think it's pretty average movie. So
you're wrong, but that's fine.
Hey, cool.
All right, moving on to number 7. Yeah, 7.
Yeah, number 7. My number 7 is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. So this is a martial arts movie, Ang Lee film. I can't remember if it won Best Picture or not. All of a sudden,
I thought it was nominated. I don't know if it won.
I don't think it won, but it was definitely nominated for a whole lot.
Oh no, it didn't win because I know what won Best Picture that year. No, it didn't. It didn't win.
Oh, it didn't. Okay, all right, cool.
You would have because you didn't like the Best Picture that year, or you didn't think that it deserved it. So, but we'll say that for the second part of the show.
Okay, now you got my curiosity. I don't remember, but yeah, I love this movie. It's a martial arts film. It is done in the style of I think it's called wuxia. I'm not sure, but that's a style of martial arts that goes
just like mystical.
Yeah, that goes way back, and it's it approaches the characters from a supernatural angle to where the characters can fly and walk on the air and all that kind of stuff. And I really like that. I think that makes this movie special in a lot of ways. It's also a love story. It's just I think most people have seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I definitely know I still love it because I watched it 6-7 years ago. Still a 5-star movie for me for sure. But yeah, that's it. That's it. I can't remember.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. My number 6 will probably be similar to that, but yeah, okay. Not in terms of film, but not remembering everything about it. So because I haven't seen it in many years.
I mean, I love it. I saw it in the theater probably 5 times. And I've watched it several times at home. It's just been a while, so my memory's not that fresh of it, but it's great. Cool. So.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of it. I love martial art movies. And I don't necessarily dislike if they're not like realistic. But this one was just too fantasy for me. They're just flying in the air and flying around on trees and it was just too fantasy for me. It didn't feel like a martial art movie. And from what I enjoy, it just felt too whimsical for me, for my taste. So I didn't care for it too much. I'm more of a, Bruce Lee, Jet Li, more serious in some ways type action person. So this one was just too, like I said, it was just too fantasy for me. I just couldn't get into it. So that's my take. And I don't remember that well either because I haven't seen it in many years either. But I do remember it being super like flying through the air and just flying around. So the entire movie's filmed with guys with cables, just flying around pretty much the entire movie. So just wasn't for me.
There's some pretty amazing fight scenes in it. And I mean, you could say the same thing about The Matrix, the fight scenes in The Matrix, people flying around.
I don't know. It wasn't as much flying, and there was gunplay in there as well. So, so I don't know. That one wasn't whimsical. You know what I mean? This one was like, even the music was all like, whimsical, and I don't know. It just wasn't for me. All right.
Because it was good. Good things are not for you usually. So.
No. If I say it's good, it's good. If I say it's not good, it ain't the good stuff, baby. It ain't the good stuff.
All right,
well, moving on to number 7, which is the good stuff.
Well, that remains to be seen.
Another horror movie, actually. Man, I got a lot of horror movies on this list. It's like, well, at least in the first half, anyway. So, and that one is going to be The Gift. So yeah. The Gift is it's got an all-star cast. It's got like Cate Blanchett, Giovanni Ribisi, Keanu Reeves in it, Greg Kinnear, Katie Holmes, Hilary Swank. I mean, there's an all-star cast in this film. It's a film that I don't think most people have seen, though. I feel like I don't think it played very well at the box office or anything like that. But the basic story of it is that there is a girl gets murdered. There's a murderer. It's a murder mystery story, basically, and also kind of a ghost story in a sense. Cate Blanchett's character basically plays kind of like a psychic medium kind of thing, where she reads like tarot cards for people. She's also able to see certain events and that sort of stuff. So she's got a lot of like spiritual things about her. And so she basically starts getting these dreams and these visions about this girl that was murdered, and they basically are utilizing her to figure out kind of who murdered her, to figure out kind of what happened to her and that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of different characters in there that play different types of roles. She accuses certain people or thinks it might be somebody based on what she sees in her visions and that sort of stuff. And so some people get falsely in prison and that sort of stuff. And, it's actually got Keanu Reeves as the bad guy, which is kind of rare. Also, he plays he plays kind of a nasty dude. So really, really, really nasty dude in this film, which is interesting. It's just a really, really good horror film. Like I said, kind of good murder mystery, whodunit, with twists and turns and that sort of stuff. And it's one that I've always enjoyed. I watched it, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago or so, but recently. And I still enjoy it. I still get a great joy out of it. And like I said, just a really good, simple film. So if you're looking for like a really good horror film with a kind of a murder mystery, but also has kind of a supernatural kind of element to it in terms of that, then definitely one that I would say check out. And that is my number 7.
Cool. Yeah, I love The Gift. I love it. It's one of those that was really hard for me to cut out of the top 10. It didn't quite make the top 10, but it's not far outside of it. But yeah, I think it's great. And you're right. I don't think hardly anybody has ever seen it. Most people these days, if you say The Gift, they think you're talking about the one with
the new one.
And that's a good movie too.
That's a good one too. It's different than this one, but that's a good one also. So
yeah,
maybe that one makes one of our top 10s or honorable mentions of that year. I don't know. I'd have to see that year. I don't know, but
yeah, sure.
But yeah, that's a good one also. But this one's different. This one's definitely more horror in that sense. But that one was more of a psychological kind of thriller, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, I love this movie. I think the acting is really great. It's got really good swampy atmosphere. And I think, like you said, I think Keanu Reeves deserves special mention because whenever anybody, I love Keanu Reeves when he's good, when he's bad, I just like Keanu Reeves. I like what he brings to a movie, even when he's miscast, like in Bram Stoker's Dracula or Dangerous Liaisons. He's not right for those movies, but I like him anyway. What can I say? But this movie, people still say that he can't act or he's a bad actor or whatever. I always tell them, watch this movie because he's so good in that movie and it's so atypical for him. He's playing like a bad guy And if you don't think there's any way that Keanu Reeves could be intimidating or
he's very intimidating. He's scary. He's a woman beater. He's a really bad dude in this one, and he plays it convincingly. You know what I mean? He plays a real bad dude. You know what I mean? So yeah definitely.
And it's just a really good, solid movie, and the cast is out of this world. And I'm a big Sam Raimi fan. I love the Evil Dead movies. I like his first 2 Spider-Man movies. Those are what he's mostly well known for. But he's done a couple of other movies outside of those 2 series that I like a lot. And this is one, and A Simple Plan is the other one. But I think I love The Gift, and I wish more people had seen it for sure.
Well, maybe they will now. Maybe they will.
Yeah.
So run out and watch The Gift.
Yes. Not the Jason Bateman one.
No, you can watch that one too. You watch them both.
You've seen both of them already. That's what I'm saying. You've seen that one already.
You've seen that one because it's got a you haven't seen this one, watch it. Check it out.
Right. Exactly.
All right, moving on to number 6.
All right, number 6 for me is Almost Famous. So this is one of my favorite movies. One of my favorite filmmakers is Cameron Crowe, who was right in the middle of a really solid hot streak at this point. Coming just off of, I think Jerry Maguire came right before this one, and that was a big hit, obviously.
Right.
So this is a movie. It's set in the. This is a movie. That's a good synopsis. It's set in the 1970s. It's loosely based on his own life story as a Cameron Crowe. When he was a teenager, he was actually hired by Rolling Stone to follow around bands and write about them because he was already a pretty well-known writer. And he was a big rock and roll fan, which is obvious from all of his movies. All of his movies have really great soundtracks because he's clearly a music fan. So it's loosely based on his experiences tagging around rock bands when he was a teenager, writing about them. And it kind of coalesces all the bands that he toured around with in real life into one fictional band named Stillwater in this movie. And it's just a really great movie if you are a fan of music. It's a good coming of age story about the kid following this band around, learning all these life experiences. Patrick Fugit plays the main character. Kate Hudson won an Oscar for it, a well-deserved Oscar, I would say. And it's just a really, really great movie, great soundtrack. I just watched it a couple of months ago for the first time in a very long time, and it definitely holds up really, really well. So number 6 for me is highly recommended, Almost Famous.
Cool. I like it. I didn't love it. It didn't make my top 10. I'm not a big rock guy. So the music for me was just but hey, different stroke for different folks. I feel like if you're a huge rock fan, you probably get a little bit more out of it than if that's not your genre of music. So so the story was decent. I didn't dislike it. In fact, it will make my honorable mentions. So I didn't hate it, obviously. But for me, I never got into the year, but 2000 was I thought it was an okay year. I didn't think it was a great year. So for me personally, there's definitely some stuff in my top half that I absolutely love. But there's I didn't love a lot of the films that year. I mean, any other year, I don't know that this film makes the top 15 for me, but it does this year. So so yeah, I'll just leave it at that. It's not bad. I didn't dislike it or anything like that. So I just don't remember a lot about it, so to go into it. But it is a really good coming of age film, and like I said, he gets to travel with the bands, and there's that kind of cool stuff or whatever. But there's a lot of rock music, and I'm not a big rock fan, so just me. Cool.
I have nothing to say about that.
I like that gangsta stuff, man. So no, joking. All right, moving on to my number 6. But
you like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's like that was always like the only rock band you ever liked, and Nickelback. I'm sorry to throw you under the bus there, but you like Nickelback.
I like the Black Keys too. I like them all.
Oh, the Black Keys are great. Yeah, I like. Yeah. But don't try to Don't try to brush past Nickelback though.
I liked a couple songs. I do like a few songs in there. So, but yeah, overall, I'm not a big rock guy. That's just not my thing. It's not my jam. You know what I mean?
That's only one of the greatest things.
I like to keep it hardcore, gangster, baby, 24/7. No, I'm just playing. Moving on. So to my number 6, as I kind of mentioned it before, it's one that I don't own it, so I haven't seen it probably since 2000. So, but I do remember liking it quite a bit, and I remember we both kind of liked it, which is Girl Fight.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it's got Michelle Rodriguez before she was. I don't think she definitely wasn't a huge star by this point. I don't.
Oh no, that was like her first movie, I think.
Yeah, so it's Michelle Rodriguez. Basically, she plays a late teen that wants to get into boxing, and that's kind of what she does. And so it's kind of a boxing training film. I wouldn't say it's similar to like $1 Million Baby in that sense, because she's not like going, pro and doing all this other stuff. So it's kind of more of a local level where she's just learning boxing, and then getting into it, and then then obviously wants to get in there and fight. And at this time, I don't know if female boxing, wherever she was at, wasn't like a big thing for females to be in boxing. So they actually have to start putting her up against guys at some point in the film as well. That's one of the things I do remember about it. I thought was interesting. But it's just a drama. It's her with her father, and she's got a lot of conflict with him as well. But it is a boxing film. Not my favorite boxing film, but it definitely is a pretty decent one. Definitely one that I recommend checking out. And I probably need to check it out again myself because I haven't seen it in many years. But that's my number 6 is Girl Fight.
Cool. Yeah. I remember liking it. I think I've only seen it the one time though. I remember we watched it together on video.
We did. Yeah.
I do remember liking it a lot. It's a good, real gritty, low budget coming of age movie. And I remember even like turning to you at one point, like halfway through, and saying like, "This is really good" or something like that. But I haven't seen it since. I like Michelle Rodriguez. I have right from the start. So I have all good memories of it, but I don't remember much about it other than that I liked it. So because it's been 20 years since I've seen it.
It has been.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah. Cool.
Oh, cool. Well, that is our bottom half of our 2000, or part 1, I guess, if you will. We'll be doing upload for part 2 shortly. So once again, as always, make sure you subscribe and, definitely make sure you hit that bell notification so that you're uploaded or updated whenever we upload the part 2, if you're interested in seeing the top half of 2000. And we will be back soon with some more movie reviews and shows for you. And we thank you guys for watching, and we hope you guys all have a great day. Thanks so much.